Imagine being a Kenyan in a foreign country, Saudi Arabia, and being locked up in their prison for over 14 years. For 14 years, just waiting to know your fate. So, this is just not a myth, but a story of one Kenyan known as Stephen Munyako, who on 2011, when first they went to Saudi Arabia in 1996, and they worked there for a while, so they knew the ins and outs. But unfortunately, in 2011, they were caught up in a fight with one of his colleagues and friend at the place of work. So this fight escalated to where there was stab wounds, and according to his statement on national TV and his story, is that the knife belonged to the other person, to the person there, to the other person, to his friend, and then the friend used the knife to stab him on the hand and on the hip, and then I think in the heat of the war he also stabbed him on the chest. So according to the stories, because of the conditions in Saudi Arabia, the bleeding was a lot for both of them. So either of them could have died if none reached the hospital fast enough because of the stab wound. So they all lost a lot of blood, but unfortunately, the other colleague died, but the Kenyan one, Stephen Munyako, by the grace of God, he was safe. So he died. The colleague died from the excessive bleeding from the stab wounds that had occurred from the fight, and the fight was started by, according to Steve on his story, the fight was started by the other colleague. So it was a very long time because when they were taken to court, it was charged as manslaughter. Because there was no intent, there was no. These guys were friends. They actually even Steve remembers even carrying his child, the colleague's child. So they were friends, but just had a war at the working place. The fight at the working place. So it was manslaughter. It was charged as manslaughter, and he was told to go, and he was going to be in prison for 5 years in the Saudi prison. So here is where it gets shocking, because in the Saudi laws, there's the public law and the private law. So once the public law is done, and he had served his 5 years, he was handed over now again to the family. That is now the widow and the wife that remained and the children, so that he can face again the private law. Because in Saudi, and it's guided by the Sharia law, the Muslim law, and it's always, if you kill someone, there's possibility that you can also be killed. So they went on and on about it, and then what it was concluded for a time that they will wait until the children of this young of the children of this the colleague who had died to come to the certain age of 18, where they were adults, so that the case could be decided. But in between there were negotiations. There was also the presentation of blood money to just settle the score. So blood money is money that is given like to pay the family, so that you can like get released. Like it's to pay the family the damages that has happened because of the person who has died. It's like paying them just so that you can get the release. So at first it was set at 10 million Saudi lakhs, that's what they say. So it was around a billion Kenyan shillings. And then there was negotiation back and forth with the ambassadors, with the foreign affairs issues with both countries. And then it went down to 5 million. And then it was reduced to 3.5 million, which equals to 150 million Kenyan shillings that was settled on by last year, so that they could fundraise for that. So they were having campaigns where it was bring Steve-O back home, and they would raise money for it so that they could at least get the 150 million. One time, actually, I saw the feature on Jeff Koinange's JKL, where they were able to raise 5 million on that night. So it really goes to show the impact of media in such issues. So by the grace of God, see, and the by the grace of God and also the grace of Allah, because during his stay in prison, the murder happened in 2011. He was charged for manslaughter and taken to prison the same almost 7 days later in 2011. And during the same time, 2011, 2012, he was able to convert to Islam. So it's by the grace of God and the by grace of Allah. And then it was presented. So the family was only able to raise 20 million. The family and even the friends, because it was a nationwide campaign to bring Steve-O back home. And then a miracle happened, because the Muslim World League, it was the World Muslim League, came to fill up the difference. So it's 130 million that was paid, because now the account was communicated to where the money was to be paid. So they were asked, how much do you have? They paid what they have, the 20 million, and then the 130 million, the difference was paid by the Muslim League. It is truly a miracle story. Like, this is one of the stories that is for the books. You can create a movie on it because it's a miracle story. It goes ahead to say that truly, truly miracles happen. But at the end of it, may God guide our steps to keep us away from prison. May God guide our steps. See you guys on the next show. Subscribe to this YouTube channel for more features and more stories.